I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. We think too much and feel too little. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. And all will be lost, all will be lost. Do not despair, the hate of men will pass, and dictators die, dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people, will return to the people. Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world, to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite!
Welcome to the show, folks. You're in the Corporation Nation. Clint Richardson, my guest today, as is every Thursday, Freeman Burt from Colorado. Welcome to the show, Burt.
Hi there, bud, and hi there, all you folks out there in Freedom Land.
Freedom Land, yes. And we know what that means now, don't we? Well, we wanted to touch on the subject that I'm sure that we're all familiar with, and one that we all live within, which is the word conspiracy. It's a very interesting word and actually has an interesting history. Now, we have a definition of conspiracy. Before I get to that, I want to define another word for you folks. Now, I know that you've heard this word before. A lot of people say, "Oh, there's no such thing." However, it is in the dictionary. So let's talk about the straw man. What the heck is a straw man? Well, back from Latin, stramanius homo, which means a man of straw, one of no substance, put forward as a bail or surety. So when you hand your driver's license over, you're handing a straw man, a bail, over to the police officer. He lets you go and keeps your estate as bail, your straw man. Now, when we go to Black's Law Dictionary, we have the second edition, I believe this is. Oh, no, wait a minute. This is second edition. We see straw man, a draft or outline copy ready for suggestions and comments. Third party, also used as a cover in illegal or shady deals. Well, that's basically what we're doing when we interact in commerce. It's a nominee director, a weak or flawed person with no standing, also called a man of straw. Interesting. Well, going back to the Law Dictionary, what is the man of straw or men of straw? And this is where it gets interesting, and this is what it has to do with conspiracy. What they used to call men of straw, you see, they were men, according to Black's Dictionary, men who used in former days to ply about the courts of law. In other words, they'd hang outside the courts. So called from their manner of making known their occupation, quote unquote, one that is by straw, by putting an actual straw in their shoes. Thus, they were referred to as men of straw outside of the courts. They were recognized by the name of straw shoes, actually. An advocate or lawyer who wanted a quote unquote convenient witness knew by these signs that the guy had the man of straw as a straw man, has a piece of straw in his shoes, in other words. He knew that he could have a convenient witness by these signs, where to meet with one, and the colloquy, words, between the parties was brief. Don't you remember, said the advocate, to which the ready answer was, to be sure I do. This was like a code. The crooked, not that there's any other kind, but the crooked attorney or lawyer would simply ask, do you remember? And the answer was, to be sure I do. Then come into court and swear it, would be the response by the attorney. And Straw Shoes went into the court and swore. Now, the reference actually goes back to Athens. It says Athens abounded in straw shoes. And this is very interesting. When we go to the definition of conspiracy, this being from Bouvier's Law Dictionary of 1856, we see a crime, a criminal law of torts, an agreement between two or more persons, very simple, to do an unlawful act or an act which may become, by the combination, injurious to others. Well, that's Congress, the president, and basically any of their appointed officials. Great. But we have to go back further to understand the actual nature or history of conspiracy. Lord Coke describes it as the following, quote, a consultation or agreement between two or more persons to appeal or indict an innocent person falsely and maliciously. Well, does that sound familiar? Could the conspiracy have involved old straw shoes over there? Little prostitute outside the court saying, yeah, sure, I'll testify to anything you want. Great, come in and swear it. A consultation or agreement between two or more to appeal or indict an innocent person falsely and maliciously. That was conspiracy in its more true form, whom accordingly they caused to be indicted or appealed, and afterwards the party is acquitted by the verdict of 12 men, of course the jury. So now we understand that conspiracy in its original form, if you will, really had more to do with basically lying
or misuse of the courts.
Yes, misuse of the courts, misuse of the law in the courts.
And this is what I find so fascinating about this one particular word, because once you begin to comprehend the truth behind the statutes and the truth behind basically the scam of the legal system, you come to realize that it's all a conspiracy in its purest form.
The whole thing is a giant conspiracy. And you know, you don't say that as a conspiracy theorist. You literally say that because it's obvious right in front of everybody's face. People talk about it over dinner, for God's sake. It's blaring on the news, all the conspiracies that are happening. How can you not acknowledge that the whole system is built on a conspiracy? From everything from the higher-ups abusing their diplomatic immunity in the courts to the lowest level police officer writing a ticket and abusing the courts in that way.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny, since now I got, you know, in great detail involved with this LexisNexis, you know, which is something that attorneys pretty much got to have. I'm finding out that I'm actually starting to like the statutes, believe it or not, because remember a long time ago we spoke and I said that there is a back door to everything they do.
You mean as far as a remedy for yourself?
Yeah, because if they made this legal system so tight, so strict to the law, their law, then the crooks, which is the politicians, would have no way to escape it. So there has to be a back door. And the back door is actually the statutes themselves. And you know, like you correctly speak all the time, that it's a language. And if you do not comprehend the language, then you will never be able to see the escape hatch, because you need that flashlight, which is basically something to interpret what the heck it is they're saying. Without being able to interpret what they are saying, you will never find the hatch. They will all look the same.
Very well spoken, and yeah, I agree. I mean, that hatch has been hidden in plain view the whole time, right there, and it's taken this long to comprehend that it even exists. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us.
He's a rebel and a runner.
the Corporation Nation. So Bert, let's carry this over now because you sent me this, and I believe is this actually from something that you're working on with a case?
Yes.
All right. So here, Bert, like you said, he's starting to fall in love with the codes. I'm getting worried here. We're gonna have to have an interdiction or some kind of intervention here because
I
he's
want
going
a
off the
code
deep end.
pajama party.
Yeah, exactly. So we go over now to the California Penal Code. We have the general definition of conspiracy, and of course, interesting that we've talked about this before, that a conspiracy must be proven in court. In other words, the conspiracy technically doesn't exist until the court acknowledges it, which is just a horrible way of thinking. But in law, that's basically how it works. So, of course, to get into court, you have to have a theory. What is your theory? It's your case. It's all the evidence. It's everything that you've built. Your docket. I'm trying to think of the other word that they use, but it's basically all of your evidence. So if you don't have that theory, then your case is going to be thrown out. So conspiracy theory is actually exactly what you need to get into court. Ironically, used as an ad hominem fallacy, of course. So we go over to the California Penal Code. California Penal Code, Section 182, which is criminal conspiracy, acts constituting a criminal conspiracy and punishment thereof. Also the venue. So, you want me to just read Section A here, Bert?
Yeah.
Okay, so this tells you what it is to constitute a conspiracy. Okay, if two or more persons conspire, one, to commit any crime. Well, that's yeah. Two, falsely and maliciously to indict another for any crime, or
okay, but hold on a second. Let's go back to number one, because they're saying to commit any crime. The average man or woman that reads that, they say, well, that's any crime. That means, me conspiring to steal a donut. That's within that line. But these are the type of expressions that are written to misguide you. They're talking about any crime related to conspiracy. Not just any crime. Is any crime related to conspiracy. So just because the expression appears to be, wide open to encompass anything, it's not. It's actually very specific. So I'm sorry.
Right. Very nice. Number two, falsely and maliciously to indict another for any crime. There again, a crime related to conspiracy, or to procure another to be charged or arrested for any crime.
So that takes you right back to the definition you were reading earlier.
Good old Lord Coke. I wonder if the Koch brothers came from Lord Coke. I never thought of that. So falsely and maliciously to indict another for any crime. Well, I mean, see, that's what I'm thinking about this, and I'm going. They're calling things crimes that are not actually crime. I mean, most of the. I guess my question to you, Bert, is: does this apply in civil proceedings? Because this would be criminal.
Well, and here's the funny thing. I don't have it handy, but. I found this one. I don't remember if it was a section or a case that clearly said that. It says that the construction of the criminal code, basically, in the construction of the civil code, they apply to each other. So the construction means the key words, the key terminology, the key comprehension of the criminal code and the civil code are basically interchangeable.
Well, let's see that the I guess if you're saying any crime, I guess that would include the victimless crimes.
Well, but see the point from this thing and connecting it to the definition that we were talking about from Bovier's dictionary, They're talking about an abuse of the courts. So if you are being taken through the court system for a supposed crime that you are not even liable for, well, what does that make it? Conspiracy. They're conspiring to deny you of lawful use of the court.
Well, give us some examples.
Well, a traffic ticket would be one of them.
How so?
If you are, in fact, have a right to make use of the road, and they use trickery and magic to elicit, right, information out of you, and then they bring in straw witnesses, which is the cop, well, what are they doing? They're conspiring to convict you of something that doesn't apply to you. Misuse of the court. The court is supposed to be for truth, for justice, and if you don't even have standing to begin with to be there, then it's a conspiracy.
Well taken. Number 3, falsely to move or maintain any suit, action, or proceeding.
There you go. We're right back to what we were talking about. If the suit, action, or proceeding doesn't apply to you, then you can only be there under a conspiracy.
Well, so, and this would interpret to where if a judge does not acknowledge your words in court or your law or your lack of standing or your rebuttal to his presumptions of your standing, well, then he is falsely maintaining the action of proceeding.
Yes, and
he's
actually
maintaining the procedure.
Yeah, and actually, what I'm starting to think is that, making these connections, like people go into court and they argue about the straw man trying to be put on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they never argue about the straw men that are surrounding them.
It's true. The artificial persons all around the court.
Yeah, and all the false witnesses who are, like you correctly said, the straw shoe people that are there as witnesses when they have no legal standing to even act as a witness.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, actually, but I guess a police officer would fit that, fill those shoes, right?
Fill those straw shoes.
In fact, maybe next time you should go put a little straw in the police officer's shoe. I think that would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. I just need to, we need to finish your outfit here.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Just one little straw will do it.
That's it. That's all you need. Well, okay. So, again, we're pretty much describing with all of these the entire structure of the court and calling it each little level a conspiracy. That's pretty interesting. Number 4. To cheat, and again, these are if 2 or more persons conspire, it is to do these things, these numbered things. It is a criminal conspiracy. So if 2 or more persons conspire, number 4, to cheat and defraud any person of any property. Hello, IRS. By any means which are in themselves criminal, or to obtain money or property by false pretenses or by false promises, hello banks, with fraudulent intent not to perform those promises.
Now, this is, let me just get people to put this in their mind. This is from the California Code, which rivals the federal code. This is how big it is. And this is in there.
All right, we'll be back. We'll continue. Stay with us.
Successfully completed. Reality.
Scientists have been battling to understand what this unappealing object is all about. What the object is all about.
Information in the form of energy streams in simultaneously through all of our sensory systems in the form of energy. And then it explodes into this enormous collage of what this present moment looks like.
The brain. We're we're talking about conspiracy here, and we're talking about the apparent fact that everything that happens in court is technically a conspiracy. I want to read number 4 again here. If 2 or more persons conspire, according to the California Penal Code, Section 182, if 2 or more persons conspire to cheat and defraud any person of any property by any means which are in themselves criminal, or to obtain money or property by false pretenses or by false promises with fraudulent intent not to perform those promises, then they have committed or constituted a criminal conspiracy. Well, gosh, how about the Louisiana Purchase? How about all the land that we took from a bunch of people who had no idea what paper title even meant under their little allodial system? How about all of the? I mean, it's like the story of America we're reading here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, we'll get into this at another point, but I'm trying to connect with some American Indian folks to learn a little bit more about their system, because people don't realize that is actually law of the land, the law that the American Indians exercise. And I know through history they try to make them look like they were savages and this and the other, but they actually had nations, and they had international law. One nation respected another nation, but because there was a certain degree of innocence in the way they conducted themselves, which was like, for example, not their belief that the land really couldn't belong to you. You were only like a shepherd of the land. That was abused by the Europeans, and they took advantage of them. But anyway, that's getting into another thing. But
and on that note, I've got a guest coming up in the new year here. I don't know when we're going to get him in here, because he's in, I believe he's in England, by the name of Abdin Noor, who did a wonderful presentation on the allodial system and exactly what you're talking about. And he has some of the most amazing information. I don't know when I'm going to get that done, and I'll be out of town for the next 2 weeks, so we'll have some guest hosts, including Deanna Spingola and Burt here, and good old Lark from Texas is going to come back on, hopefully with Nikki Rapana, and talk some more about communitarianism and all that good stuff. So
on the 26th and the 2nd, I'm going to be on, right?
Well, that's if you think you can handle the big chair.
I don't know if I can.
I don't know. It's so scary. I know. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So I don't know, but every time you present these things to me, I don't know whether to be. If everything is a conspiracy, then nothing is a conspiracy. When you're talking about a criminal element or a criminal, I mean, this is literally the den of thieves creating laws for itself. I mean, it's almost, they must turn their noses up at this stuff and just laugh.
Oh,
because if everything is a conspiracy, then how can you prove a conspiracy? I mean, it's I'm confused.
Well, and that's the thing, is that outside of basically abusing the court, there is no conspiracy, legally speaking. Because conspiracy only applies to them abusing the court.
Well, but is that abusing the opinions of the court as well? Because, I mean, when we're reading out of the legal dictionary, that's what it's pretty much quoting us, right? Or the opinions and the actually past precedents of the court. So I don't think you'd have to actually be in court to commit conspiracy, right?
Well, no, you don't actually have to be in court. Actually, you don't have to be part of the court in order to be involved in the conspiracy. But here's the most obvious perpetrator of this type of conspiracy, and that's the attorney that you hire.
Go on.
I mean, this guy you are hiring under the pretense that he's there to defend you. That he's there to tell you the truth. But in fact, he's conspiring with everybody else to keep you in this make-believe system so that you will believe that you, in fact, have a liability to the will of the legislature.
So, I mean, essentially what you're saying is that when you're taking an attorney and you are attorning your power over to that attorney as a representative of the state or of the bar, he can't really defend you. He can only
conspire against you.
He can only conspire. Well, I mean, that's technically he would never do anything to actually rebut the court's procedures, I guess, in your favor.
He's a conspirator.
That's interesting.
He can only conspire against you. I mean, so many things, as I'm going through this thing, are becoming more and more obvious. And these are things that, of course, I mean, I've already known, but what I'm trying to do is find the evidence to back it up so that when I turn people onto this information, they'll have something to actually hold on to, And because I don't want anyone taking my word for anything that I say. But this is a beautiful statute, code, whatever you want to call it, they're trying to apply to a child when in fact it applies to them. And this is across the board. All their codes, all their statutes applies to them, to their conspiracy society, not to the free people. But they try to twist it around so that we will believe that we are somehow liable, and yet they will never give you anything that tells you directly that you are liable for anything.
In other words, they won't tell you how this code actually applies to you.
No, they never will. And I mean, I know that some of these concepts that we talk about are pretty, pretty broad in the sense that it applies across the board. But I want people to comprehend that all these general points, that you bring up in your show and through all the research and work that you do, if you can get a grip on those general concepts, it makes the detail of their law so much easier to understand, because once you realize that it's a scam, the truth jumps out at you. But if there is a hint in your bone that there is truth and honor to their BS as far as applying to you, then the facts will just go right over your head.
Well, I mean, so what you're basically saying, and it makes perfect sense, and it sort of gives you a place to plant your feet anytime you're going to deal with these criminals. You're basically, from day one, you're starting in a conspiracy. In other words, your interaction with government can be nothing else but criminal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's its nature, is what you're saying.
Yes, because it's a system designed to steal things from you. That's all it is. All the government is nothing more than a giant vacuum there to vacuum away your rights, your property, your money, your hopes, your future, everything. And it's a self-consuming, it's just like a black hole. It takes and it doesn't give back. Government gives nothing to people. They only give an illusion that they're giving you something. But they give you nothing.
So it would be proper then, at least in the mindset of someone who's trying to build a case, trying to defend themselves, to consider that as okay, I am in a completely unlawful situation here. First of all, I'm dealing with a legal system that's run by a international conglomeration or association, a private non-governmental association. It's private law. And I am starting my case with the knowledge that everything is against me. In other words, the whole thing is a criminal conspiracy against me. Now I must build a case to worm myself out of the conspiracy. That's basically where you have to start.
Yeah. And you got to make it clear that you are not going to be a conspirator in their conspiracy.
And by being a defendant, you are
a conspirator.
Second you make that plea. All right, folks, we'll be back. Stay with us.
Is this real? Versus this ride? The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love. The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're talking today with Freeman Burt from Colorado. Onlyfreemen.com is that website for Burt. Now, when we move into number 5 here, again, we're talking about Section 182 of the California Penal Code, acts constituting a criminal conspiracy. This one's a little more interesting because it goes out into what is called the public. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to read some definitions to you about what public actually means. Because we always think, oh, well, that's all of us. We're united in love and charity. To commit any act, this is number 5, to commit any act injurious to the public health, to public morals, or to pervert or obstruct justice or the due administration of the laws. This is a very interesting one because they're talking internally. They're not there. I mean, it's kind of like we read a long time ago the definition of evil when the court gave its opinion about what was evil, and I think it was in Black's Law, if I'm not mistaken. The word evil means to go against government, whether it's acting constitutionally or unconstitutionally. Mm-hmm. Well, that's basically what this is saying, is to commit evil, an act injurious to the public health. What is the public health? That's the question. Well, public, under Bouvier's, the term public, by the term public is meant the whole body politic, or all the citizens of the state. Now, citizens are not necessarily flesh and blood men. They're persons. Okay, sometimes it signifies the inhabitants of a particular place, like the New York public. Let's see. What is, just to give you an idea of how this works, what is the public debt? Now, this is interesting because Bouvier's describes the public debt as that which is due or owing by the government. By the government? Wait a minute. What about, I thought it was by us. No, it's what's due or owed by government. Okay. Public enemy.
Let me expand a little bit on that. What you're saying.
One more to make this clear, though. This word "public enemy" is used in the singular number, designates a nation at war with the United States, and includes every member of such nation. To make a public enemy, the government of the foreign country must be at war with the United States. Remember the last 3 days what we've been talking about? So really, when we say the word public, we're not really talking about, again, the flesh and blood people. Public, it's like public opinion. What is public opinion? It's the opinion of the court. Go ahead, Bert. I'm sorry.
Is that when you were saying about what is the debt? Is this the debt of the government? Well, what is government? What government are they talking about? They're talking about the government of McDonald's, the government of Walmart. The government of what? The government is the administration of something. So this government they're talking about is the administration, those people that got together and administrate an entity known as the United States Corporation. That's the government that they're talking about. So they're talking about an administrative body, and then they're putting the debt on you to pay it for them. No different than the government of Walmart making you liable for their debt or their faulty expenditures, etc.
Well, so the public health and public morals really are government, really are what what comes out of the courts. The legal codes really are the public, quote unquote, morals. If you think about it, we're not talking about real morals, real values, or real ethics, or even real health. I mean, the Biological Weapons Code Title 50 tells you that they don't care about our health, for God's sake. We're not talking about people. We're talking about the nation, the continuity and strength and credit of the nation. That's what we're talking about when this. So to commit any acts injurious to that or to the due administration of the laws. So in other words, if you interfere with the court's ability to create justice, to ensure justice.
Yeah. So anything you do to basically abuse the court that would cause harm to the public health, and I mean public health is a huge term. That has people think it has to do with whether you have a temperature or not. No, it's the well-being of their public, of whatever it is they call their public that belongs to them that they manage. That's the health. And public morals has to do with the degree at which their will is obeyed. That's the moral that they're talking about. They don't, if raping children, cutting people into pieces. If that's within the moral of their world, it's totally moral.
Well, let's take an example. Let's take Detroit as an example. Do you think that there was acts taken by the government of Detroit, the city council and county, that might have been injurious to the public health of Detroit? Well, yeah, absolutely. For one thing, they hoarded all the money instead of using it to improve and help the people, the city. For another, they embezzled a lot of it out of the system. So, yeah, they absolutely have committed a criminal conspiracy against the public health of Detroit.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that when you begin to see the truth in the purpose of these statutes or these codes, you get to see that you can take all these codes and apply it to them directly. And then they have to tell you, oh, no, it doesn't apply to us. See, it applies to you. They're never going to do that.
Well, they're the employees.
Yeah, so it's their rules. It's for them.
Number 6. Our final conspiratorial...
Actually, there's one more little section after that, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, number 6 says, to commit any crime against the person of the president or vice president of the United States, the governor of any state or territory, any United States justice or judge, or the secretary of any of the executive departments of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's...
Well, okay. Now, if we were to we could apply this again to the Lieber Code, where we said that these people, they don't just have a vested interest; they cannot go against government. Our representatives, which are, again, Burt, you probably missed this, but we kind of decided that our congressmen and senators are actually attorneys. We give them our power. That makes sense? Right. So they are, again, since they are officers of the Union, of the United States, here it says that if you're in a public office, say you're a councilman, say you're a mayor, and you commit any act injurious to the public, or commit any crime against the person of the president or vice president. Meanwhile, they're up there committing crimes every day, right? But you, as a councilman, would not be able to, if I'm reading this right, you would not be able to bring that up in court. When I went to the Attorney General, for instance, he would not bring up into court the 9/11 dossier that I gave him. He said, no, I can't do that. I don't have the power to do that. Well, that would be committing that would be harming the president of the United States.
Yeah, I mean they're and this is the part that people don't realize. There's a high degree of allegiance. The allegiance that these people have to their system is greater than any allegiance they could possibly even, on a shadow have toward you.
They literally take a blood oath to it and not to the people.
Yeah, it's pretty much along those lines, and it's almost better to look at these people as though they were robots. Do not try to get any common sense out of them. Just bring them their law, their statutes, and tell them, follow it. There it is. You don't want to follow it? Okay, I'll see you in court for not following your regulation. Which means that then it puts you at a point where you actually have to learn their BS. And I know that sucks, but that appears to be the only thing that these people respond to. And I'll give you guys a perfect example. We had, I don't know if we'll have enough time, but we had some paperwork returned to us by a district court, a case that we're fighting, federal district court. And I told the people, I said, okay, that's fine. The clerk returned it because the judge told the clerk to return it. And then I told the lady, go back to the court clerk and tell her you want to file it on demand. Guess what? It got filed and entered into the docket.
And what does that mean for people?
It means that you demand that it be entered, and that way if the clerk enters it on demand, the clerk cannot get in trouble for disobeying the judge.
Well, we've said this before, and we'll say it again. Stop asking and start demanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a difficult concept. Get off your knees and stop begging for justice and take it into your own hands.
Yeah.
Now, I go back and forth with this, especially after the last 3 days, which has just been mind-bending for me. Just really getting into this Liber Code and understanding again that we are in an open-air prison. But what we're really talking about is understanding the fundamental nature that, well, it goes back to what we said earlier. If you approach this as if you are a prisoner that really has very, very few rights, and the only way that you're going to get out of this is to recognize that the whole thing is criminal, you're actually approaching it not from a system of justice, but from a system of criminality. If you approach your case that way, it's almost like working from the back, forward. It actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Exactly. We will be back with Freeman Burt. Again, only freeman.com. Oh, what a mess. We'll be back.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are men. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Let us use that power to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Let us all unite.
Well, welcome back, folks, to the Corporation Nation. I'm Clint Richardson, your host. With me today is Freeman Burt. You can catch Burt every Thursday right here on RBN. And, of course, his website is onlyfreeman.com. Now, I want to remind people that we live in a bureaucracy. To understand what that means, we have to know that a bureaucracy is, well, it's full of bureaucrats. So let's go and find out what that exactly means. What is a bureaucrat? We've certainly read this before, but let's read it again just to make sure we all understand that a bureaucrat is an official who works by fixed routine without exercising intelligent judgment. Let me read that again. A bureaucrat is an official who works by fixed routine without exercising intelligent judgment. What is a bureaucracy? Well, a bureaucracy, as we've just been reading, is the abuse of official influence in the affairs of government, or corruption. This word has been adopted to signify that those persons who are employed in bureaus, in other words, government, and abuse their authority by intrigue to promote their own benefit or that of friends, rather than the public good. The word is derived from the French, of course. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856. So we're really talking about a bunch of officials who work by fixed routine without exercising intelligent judgment. That's what we're talking about. So you cannot expect to go to an attorney and talk to him like we are talking. What happens, Burt, when you try to get an attorney to talk in this language, to actually represent you in a real physical way against his oath to the bar, against his oath to that private association, and against his disposition as a member of the law society? In other words, of the court, an officer of the court. What happens, as you've discovered so many times, in fact, in your own personal experience, what happened when you actually tried to talk to your attorney? What did he do?
Well, they can't. I mean, he will not talk to you about the law. Their law. Period. And when you try to talk to him about him defending you or causing you to stand up for yourself, he'll say, and like this attorney told me straight up, he says, Burt, I will defend you any way I can, but I can only do it in your straw man name. And he came straight up and said it.
And also that he was an officer of the court.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I'm standing there in front of the judge with him next to me, and he says, well, Your Honor, although I privately may agree with many of the points that Mr. Aranguren here is presenting, I am, after all, an officer of the court. And he bowed to the judge. And at that point, my blood pressure went up so darn high I couldn't hear anything around me.
And he didn't forewarn you that he was going to do that, of course.
That he was going to do that? No, he did not. And then I have another a neighbor that's an attorney, and the only way he'll talk to me about the law is after he has had a few drinks. I mean, he told me, he says, let's have a couple of beers and we can talk about the law all you want. Because then he can blame it on being drunk, right? You know what he was saying.
Yeah. What is his position?
Well, he's all for the law, but when he's talking to me about the law, he's constantly using the term color of law, as though color of law is true law. And the truth is, color of law is all their law. All their law is color of law. Operates under color of law. It does not operate under what people believe to be real law. All legal law is color of law because it pretends to be real law. And in order to pretend to be real law, it requires your consent. And that's the part that is hard for people to comprehend.
Well, and I recommend people go and read, just type it in, color of law, U.S. code, and you'll find what that means, and you'll be surprised actually that these guys can go to prison for 10 years or be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for acting under color of law. Well, that's what a police officer does every day. The second that he uses his authority on you, second that he turns on his emergency lights, he's acting under color of law. He's pretending to be lawful. He's pretending to be that his actions are justified by the law, which they are not. When you go to the FBI website, of course, color of law is they're highly plain in their language that it is a punishable offense, and it's right there on the FBI website. So, the question is, Bert, how do you prove that they're acting under color of law? You can get one guy drunk and he'll admit it, but how do you prove that in a court?
Because if it doesn't apply to you, then it's color of law.
Well, if it doesn't apply to them, it's color of law too. I mean, it's well. Let's go back to this section 182 here of the Penal Code, and I think this will probably wrap it up. It's a very long thing, of course, but it says, upon a trial for conspiracy, in a case where an overt act is necessary to constitute the offense, the defendant cannot be convicted unless one or more overt acts are expressly alleged in the indictment or information, nor unless one of the facts alleged is proved, but other overt acts not alleged may be given in evidence. That's kind of hard to understand, actually.
It's difficult to understand, but the most important part in this here, and this is actually the most important part in the whole thing to prove conspiracy, is an overt act. Without an overt act, which is basically the act that seals the deal to create the conspiracy, not the act itself. See, people think like you conspire to steal a donut. The donut is not the overt act of the conspiracy. The overt act would be something either in writing or some definite agreement with the understanding and the comprehension of the outcome of the event that you are conspiring to put together. I mean, if you're conspiring to take a bottle of milk and tie it to a wheel, at noon on a summer day, and your end result is to have cheese, right? Or cottage cheese. Well, that is the end result of what you're looking for. The fact that you put the bottle on the wheel is not the overt act. So like an agreement or something in writing or something in video where you're actually talking about the end result of what is the benefit, what is the thing that's going to be taken, that is the overt act. And most conspiracies, when they try to apply it to the everyday man or woman, it doesn't even come close to applying.
So obviously the overt act of a police officer pulling you over, writing you a ticket, the overt action is the knowledge that is exaction or extortion of money.
Yes.
Right? I mean, simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, stay with us. We'll continue and maybe take some calls at the end here.
Wake up, wake up, wake up and look around you. We're lost in space and the earth is your home.
Hi, neighbor. Welcome again to this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. You know what this is? Maybe if I press this button. There are so many things to learn about in this world, and so many people who can help us learn, and so many people who can help us learn. Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? In the garden of your mind. You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. In the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow.
What is it to be an officer of government and to act under its color? In other words, to act under color of law. When we go to Bouvier's Law Dictionary, We see color of office. What does it mean for a police officer to act under the color of his office? A wrong committed by an officer under the pretended authority of his office. Simple as that, folks. That is punishable by 1 year in prison, according to U.S. Code. A wrong committed by an officer under the pretended authority of his office. In some cases, the act amounts to a misdemeanor, and the party may then be indicted. In other cases, the remedy to redress the wrong is by an action. So, Burt. Oh, by the way, I got a message here actually from Mr. Anthony. He says, as law, the term, quote, as law, actually means color of law, or is defined as color of law. And, of course, the Model Business Corporation Act, which we discussed, that replaced a lot of the statutory laws that were in place, was enacted as law. In fact, says statute revision of 1953 enacted as law. So that means under color of law. Oregon revised statutes, citation. The statute laws set forth after Section 8 of Enrolled House Bill Number 2 of the 47th Legislative Assembly were enacted as law of the state of Oregon, effective December 31st, 1953. He also compares it to Federal Reserve notes, which operates as money. Well, guess what? Federal Reserve notes are acting under the color of law as if they are money, but in fact, they have no evidence of law.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So the whole thing works under basically your consent. I mean, if you're willing to consent to pretend, that Mickey Mouse, Batman, and Superman are all for real, well, then everybody will pretend along with you. But if you stand up and say, no, they're cartoons, they're not for real, then they'll say, hey, you need a mental evaluation, sir. And they'll send you into a mental institution for several weeks because somehow your mind is not right because you're questioning the illusion. I mean, this is true. I know people that this has happened to. You go into court and you start doubting and asking proof. They say, well, you must have a mental problem, sir. And that's one of the first things that the prosecutor will bring up if you start, with passion asking for proof of anything.
Well, that's the importance of the psychology industry and the drug industries. These guys sit around and create new diseases all the time. Of course, those who believe in the Constitution are constitutionalists, they're called, and then they can be they're crazy. There all kinds of dementias that have been created to describe people like you and me and all you listening out there.
Yeah. So should we talk about the back door?
Well, you said you wanted to talk about this. Just one last thing here. Penal Code Section 182. The word crime as used in this code relating to conspiracy to commit any crime includes misdemeanor.
Yeah, so what I wanted to point out in there is that there's a case there, and that's what Clint just read, that makes it clear that expression that we begin with, talking about any crime, does not mean any crime. It means a specific type of crime. So I want you guys to understand that these expressions are very misleading if you take them literally, because it's a different language. When they say any crime, any does not mean unlimited. It's actually very specific. So it's contrary to the way we may think these words mean.
Right. All right. Well, let's go to, what are you calling them? Backdoor remedies, if you will. Backdoor escapes.
Yeah,
escape hatches.
The escape hatches.
Well, where do you want to start?
Let's start with that one case there. Criminal statute should be construed according to fair import of its term, and where language is ambiguous or doubtful in its intent, construction of statute should always be favorable rather than unfavorable to any person accused of violation of law. Now, how many people have heard that from their attorney?
I don't believe that's within their purview. Well, and so what this is basically saying is that if there is any ambiguity or misunderstanding of the intent of the wording of the law, it's basically the innocent until proven guilty is basically what it's saying. I mean, it's saying that no words should be used against somebody.
So if the statute is not clear, it must be understood in your favor.
Oh,
how many statutes are completely clear?
Well, that's a good point.
And I mean, if you and you know, like you've correctly told people that whenever you're reading a particular statute, make sure you work outwardly from the statute, to that chapter, from that chapter to the title, and then from the title to the construction of the entire code, because that's kind of the order that you have to understand the construction, meaning the definition, which is not really definition, but the meaning of the term that is being used to try to convict you. So you must bring in the construction of those terms into the court to clarify the meaning of the statute that is being used against you. And one of those most important terms in the construction of any statute or any code is the word person. How does the personhood fit in within that particular code that they're saying you're liable for? Without establishing your personhood in relation to the particular law, the case cannot move forward. It's called standing. Without standing, there is no case. And even though you read all kinds of cases about how important standing is, that is actually the most omitted part of all criminal cases. They do not address standing. And attorneys know this, and they allow you to go through trial without ever clarifying your standing.
And once again, let's talk about standing. What does that mean, Burt? What does it mean? Oh, well, we'll talk about it after the break. What the heck are you talking about? Are you saying that when I go to court, I can demand to know who the hell I am in the court's eyes? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's very important.
How is the state seeing me or acknowledging me? Wow.
Are you a horse, a cat, a dog? What are you?
What are you? A human being, a monster. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us.
Derivatives, quantitative easing, trade imbalances, recession, low GDP, nations close to collapsing, and subprime loans, foreclosed homes, and people's taxes spent to bail out too big to fail AAA banks again. Fear levels rising as a US crash seems imminent, having smashed the debt ceiling of 14 trillion. Despite protests and clashes in Athens streets, the IMF imposed structurally unjust programs in Greece, where in fact the term economy entered our language from the Greek oikonomia, meaning household management. Well, how are we managing?
Right, folks,
theories abound, but in practice, does anyone actually know what the hell's even happening?
Oh, I tell you, Bert, simultaneously I'm getting discouraged, and I'm getting, I don't know what the word is, maybe enlightenment, like what's his name says in the song, it's just a ride. None of it exists. That's the weird part about it. It only exists if you acknowledge it. And yet it's gotten to the point where the acknowledgement and the consent has been garnered tacitly. and we just accept it as real. It's kind of like walking around in the Matrix. We just accept it as reality, when in fact it is all de facto nonsense garbage. The whole system is illegitimate, and yet we treat it as the opposite. It's an amazing feat, really, when you think about it.
Yes, and there's one part of the movie Matrix that if people can kind of wrap their mind about this one little example. Remember the part where the boy is holding the spoon and he's bending it, and he's telling Neo, it's like, don't try bending the spoon because that's impossible. Bend your mind, right? And then the spoon will bend with it. That's what we have to do in this system.
Realize that there is no spoon.
Yeah, realize that there is no spoon. And then you can bend it any kind of way you want to, because it's all an illusion. An illusion is not real. Therefore, it can be bent.
You have to approach it with that exact understanding, again, that it's completely corrupt and illegitimate. Only then can you start working your way around it. So here's another couple of these that you've cited here, and these are court cases, court opinions, of course. When language which is reasonably susceptible of two constructions is used in a penal law, ordinarily that construction which is more favorable to the offender will be adopted. And that's the People versus Ralph in 1944. And then this one, the defendant in criminal case is entitled to benefit of every reasonable doubt as to true interpretation of words or construction of language used in statute. That's People versus Smith, 1955. So basically what this is saying, I mean, this kind of reminds me of the ignorance of law is no excuse. Well, if a word is used in a penal code that is not defined in that penal code specifically, well, then it's up for interpretation. Simple as that.
Yeah. So if we go into court and we say, well, Your Honor, see, this is what the law says. Here's all the cases that attempt to define the law. And here's what the construction of the law is, working backwards from, chapter, title, and construction of the code. And here's what it says from my point of view. And from my point of view, and backing it up with all this other information here, it's making it perfectly clear that it doesn't apply to me. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And it's actually not the judge the one that has to correct you. It's the prosecutor that's coming after you. He's the one that has to correct you if you're wrong. And now, we must remember, in all these lower courts, most of these points that we are talking about are going to go by the wayside, okay? Unless your argument is pretty solid, you're going to have to go to appeal. Because these lower courts are designed to railroad you through the system, because they make no money unless you go through the system. But in order for them to get you through the system, you must first cross the very first hurdle, which is arraignment. Once they get the plea from you, that's it. You're in the cart and you're going downhill on the tracks. And there's nothing that can stop you.
That's why they want to, so badly put a plea in for you. No, sir, I do not want to put in a plea at this time. Oh, well, you have to. We're going to put it in for you. What are you talking about? You're going to put it in for me. That's conspiracy.
Yeah. So what you want to do is actually, you don't want to argue with them. You say, I am more than willing to enter a plea. I want to enter a plea because I don't want to waste anybody's time, because if in fact I'm guilty, I'm going to say right now I'm guilty, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. But before I can do that, see, I need to understand the statute, and I need to understand what it is that my position is within the statute. And I need these other points clarified. And I have a right, according to your law, to enter this type of motions prior to the arraignment. And and this is exactly what Gary is actually doing. He was on with us last time. Yeah. He's already has postponed his supposedly arraignment hearing now. It's going on the fourth hearing.
All because they won't tell him what his status is?
Yeah.
What his standing is, excuse me?
Yeah, he's trying to clarify, same thing, status, standing, what it is for him in order for him to be able to enter a plea. And I mean, if we look at this from a commercial point of view, imagine you entering into a contractual agreement with a corporation. If you're entering the negotiations as the son of the founder of the company, as opposed to Joe Blow walking off the street, don't you think there's a huge difference in standing?
A little bit.
A little bit, huh? Well, same thing in court. Your standing means everything. If you're coming in as a low-life United States citizen, your rights just shrunk, like coming out of the swimming pool on a winter day. Significantly shrunk. But if you're coming in as one of the citizens within the meaning of the Constitution, which is the same citizen that existed on the Articles of Confederation, well, cold weather is not going to have any effect on you.
No shrinkage then, huh?
No shrinkage factor.
No shrinkage if you're the good kind of citizen. All right. Well, what else would you like to cover today, Burt?
Well, what I want people to understand is that this back door, which is a back door that is open to, obviously, the criminals that are running the system, and every now and then you'll hear a case that you're like, wait a minute, how is it that they got off? Wait a minute, what was that decision that the judge said that the law didn't apply in this situation, blah, 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 and you're left, wondering, so that guy got off, and no one else is getting off. No, it's not that the guy got off, it's that the law didn't apply to him. And that's why he was able to walk away, because he made that point clear, and the court just happened to accept it in this one instant.
And at some point, the court is not willing to risk its own
skin
hide to I mean, it's one of a million profitable cases he's going to see that year. It would be much better to dismiss that one case and forget the blood money that would come with it, rather than to see it fulfilled and actually set a precedent that other people could use. So it's easier just to dismiss the case. It's simple as that. Talk about again a conspiracy. If you're dismissing a case so that there's no record that the case was fraudulent in the first place, there you go again. Conspiratorial acts.
Yes, and that's another thing to keep in mind is that if you are actually bringing in, the so-called silver bullet, they're never going to give you a chance to fire your gun. They're going to dismiss your case way before you ever get to point it at anything, because they don't want you to bring in a silver bullet in their courtroom. Well, because just like Clint said, you'll set precedents.
And ultimately, hey, you know what? That's okay. That's in our world, as prisoners of war in an open-air prison with very, very few remedies that actually work, no matter what the gurus say out there. A dismissal of the case is actually one of the better victories you can have, at least in the short term. Yes. You're not going for a win for the most part. There is no winning as a prisoner. That's the thing. As a slave to the system, there is no winning. That's the irony of it all.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. We'll be back. We got one more little segment here. If folks want to call in, feel free, and we'll be back. Got another comment here from a listener. It says, as far as the entry of a plea, it says entering a plea. If you say this, in other words, this could be your answer to the judge when trying to force you to enter a plea. Entering a plea would waive rights prior to plea, which I wish not to waive. Any entry of a plea will be a due process violation. And that's good because you've just established the law, a law that otherwise can be ignored by that administrator of justice. An entry of a plea will be a due process violation. You've just given notice to the judge that if he does this, he's violating the law under color of law.
Exactly.
So that's actually a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, we had one more, and then we'll take, looks like Willis in Idaho is calling in. One last case here. It is a policy of the state to construe and apply penal statutes as favorably to defendants as the language of the statute and the circumstances of its application may reasonably permit.
Okay, what could be some of the circumstances of its application? How about your status? How about your standing? It's all there. We just need to make use of it.
Well, so in other words, technically you could be standing, or you could be in the court, and your standing could be 20 different statuses, basically. Is what
Absolutely.
You're saying.
And they're supposed to tell you what your standing is so that you know how to defend yourself. You know, if your standing is as the son of the king, but your defense is going to be a hell of a lot different than you're just simply a peasant.
Or a landowner, or, anything like that. All right, makes sense. All right, well, let's take Willis in Idaho. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Howdy.
Good. This is just really, really fantastic stuff. You guys are really onto something, and I'm not just speaking as a layman. I have beat not only the IRS, the State Tax Commission, different agencies, exactly with what you're saying. Everything is contract law. It really is. You accept their argument. It's accepted for value. This is have you guys heard of the redemption process years ago?
I've heard of it. I've looked into it, and that's not something that I wanted to play with.
Right, I understand, but you are very close to that. I would consider you the evolution of that process. I would be happy to agree or admit to this if you would show me how it applies to me.
Right.
You're agreeing with your adversary. Anyway, it's fantastic. You guys are really doing good, and God bless you. Keep it up.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Good to know, actually. Let's give credit where credit's due here. This is the Burt man. Burt is, like I said, having a love affair with the journals of law, the journals of fiction. He's in the middle of a giant fictional book called The Statutes of California, or the Penal Code of California, and it's completely overtaken his soul at this point.
I am loving it.
1-800-313-9443. If you want to call in real quick, we can take one more call. Burt, thanks for joining me today. I want to tell you about my guest tomorrow. It's actually my friend Boz. We'll see if he wants to use his real name, but he's been doing something for the last 3 years that's just amazing, and he did it for me last night, and I don't really know how to describe the experience, but he's using what are called singing metal bowls. So we're going to switch off of all of this deep, dark stuff that we've been talking about. We're actually going to talk about something that's healing for the soul. These metal bowls with some claims that it actually heals in ways that wouldn't be expected, like restoration of hair growth, causing cancers to go away, and it's all by vibrational frequency. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow.
Well, and you know that frequency that you're talking about, I tell people when you go to court and you deal with these government agents, you must go with a frequency of peace. You cannot go with a frequency of creating an adversary, because if you go there to create an adversary, guess what? You're going to create one.
Well, and it's like the caller said, and like you said, you're not disagreeing with them. You're only trying to find the foundation of their case or their argument. It's
keeping them in honor.
And keeping them in honor. And you know, you could use the word honor. Honor to these people is very important, priceless.
Yeah. And I mean, to them, honor means obedience. Okay? So if you are willing to be obedient and respect their law, then by all means, give me the elements so that I can properly put it in place and complete the puzzle for you. Because really that's what it is. You go to court, they give you a puzzle, and there's pieces missing. And they give you a time. They say, you got 3 seconds to put it together. Go. Oh, okay, too bad. Guilty. Wait, but there was 3 pieces missing. We didn't get a motion for that. Sorry, we didn't hear about it. Guilty. Give him 5 years. He's gone. So you're trying to keep them in honor by making sure that when they do enter that decision to make you guilty, all the pieces were there for the puzzle, for them to be able to enter their decision.
And I guess that's the most important part about, again, entering into the court. You have to understand that the judge is not, the judge or the attorney is not there to present you with the puzzle pieces. No, he's there to ensure the procedure of the court is followed. Nothing else. That's it. To ensure that the procedures of court are followed. That's what an attorney is there for. Yeah. That's his main duty. And that does not involve say, oh, well, Judge, hey, just to let you know, you forgot a few laws here. There's this 500-page section that you forgot to mention here. Let me read it. That's not what they're there for. They're simply there to make sure the court procedures go as follows.
Yeah, and let me give people an example. Now, I'm not going to give you guys this example just so that you can go out there and be irresponsible, but it's just to give you a point. In every DUI prosecution, there are 2 elements that have to be brought into court. And the one they always bring in is the blood alcohol content, right? But people don't realize the blood alcohol content is actually irrelevant. It means very little. The most important part of that DUI stop is the cops witnessing you not having control of your car. Because Clint and I could have the same exact blood alcohol, but that does not mean that we're both going to have the same equal reaction or lack of reaction when we're behind the wheel. There's no
drink you under the table, boy.
I doubt that, but
I do too. I can't take any drug or alcohol without it affecting me really bad. But
that's the point.
So what does it mean when you see all these commercials then that say, what is it? It's when you just have one little drink, and then they say that's drunk driving too.
No, I mean it will affect you, but the degree, the crucial point in a DUI is you not having control of your machine, of your car. Because if you don't have control of your car, anybody can stop you. And this is the key with the cops. Anything the cops can do lawfully, you can do.
So can you.
If you cannot do it and the cop is doing it, hint, hint, it's illegal.
It's under color of law.
You can arrest the cop for doing it.
I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more. I thank you for that. I read your the citations you found on that citizen's arrest. All right, folks. Thanks, Burt, again. Onlyfreemen.com. Join me tomorrow. Should be interesting. Take care. Stay tuned for Bob Tuscan.